Productivity is the degree to which native speakers use a particular grammatical process, especially in word formation. It compares grammatical processes that are infrequent use to less frequently used ones that tend towards lexicalization. While creativity, morphological creativity is not a complicated concept, although it may be used to present complex ideas. Essentially, it is a process for creating new ideas by analyzing the form and structure of existing ones and changing the relationship of their components.
Okay, and historically trend, early industrialization for most of 20th century, advance in technology, productivity, and real income per capita came very slowly and sporadically. And the gains remained modest until the later part of the 19th century. For the first 15 years after the beginning of the Industrial Revolution in Britain around 1715. But with the development of modern science in the 17th century and the quickening of technological innovation that is backed, the track was set for significant improvement in productivity. Productivity grew at an average annual rate around 0.5%, but it accelerated to more than 1% in the 19th century, and in the United States increased and at an average rate of 0.5% until after the Civil War.
Okay, today I will explain about factors contributing to productivity. So a number of factors contribute to the degree to which we can use morphological processes to create new lexemes, like transparency, frequency of base, and usefulness. And there are three. The one factor is what is called is transparency. Words formed with the transparent processes can be easily segmented, such that there is a one-to-one correspondence between form and meaning. In other words, when we attach an affix to a base, the phonological form or the pronunciation of both morphemes stays the same, and the meaning of the derived word is exactly what we should expect by adding the meaning of the affix to that of the base. That is for the transparency. And transparency is not only the factor that contributes to productivity. Another factor that is important is what we might call frequency of base type. By this I mean the number of different bases that might be available for affixes to attach to this, resulting a new word. If an affix attaches only to a limited range of bases, it has less possibility of bases, it has less possibility of giving rise to lots of new words, and it will therefore be less productive. Consider, for example, the suffix in English, which means something like having the style of. It attaches to nouns, but mostly to considerate ones, and in fact, most often to proper names. That's the second factor. Now, the final factor to contribute to productivity is what we might call is usefulness. A process of lexeme formation is useful to the extent that speakers of a language that need new words of particular sort. It always useful, for example, to be able to form a noun meaning the state of being X from an adjective, whatever X means. So boldness and IT, like example in the book, are highly useful affixes. On the other hand, consider the suffix es in English. Thank you.
going to tell about restriction and productivity or on productivity. So restriction is mean that limitation on productivity, which is it has different kinds of restriction that may apply to like sim as a formation process. So restriction has three parts. It is categorical restriction, phonological restrictions, and the meaning of the base. So categorical restriction is almost all affix, and then are restricted to base of specific categories. For example, ed and ness attached to adjective, is attached to noun, and adjective or an attached to adjectives or verbs. So phonological restriction is something affix will attach only to base that fit certain phonological patterns. For example, is prefers noun and adjective that consists of two or more syllables, where the final syllable does not bear primary stress. And the last is the meaning of the base. For example, negative an prefers bases that are not themselves negative in meaning. We find unlovely but not unugly, and unhappy but not unsaid. Thank you.
I'm going to talk about how to finding words. The first is look backward word list like Lenhart's a backwards list gives word alphabet starting with the last letter than first, so all the words with it or ness can be found together. A view of the it words to be found in Lenhart. In this sidebar, you will notice that using a backward word list is not a perfect tool. Such word lists simple alphabets words from the end to the beginning, so any words ending in it will occur in the list, not just words that really have a suffix it. In the list I give here, in addition to real it words like oddity and rancidity, we find junk like ramped idt, spelled two different ways. A bit earlier in the list, we would have found the word city, which of course also ends in the sequence of letter it. In the list here, we also find the word acidity plus 4 other derived types of it: subsidity, non-sidity, hypsidity, hyperacidity. So if you work with backward word list, be prepared to throw in words by word.
The last one is productivity versus creativity. Productivity is a property that determines language, which allow native speaker to produce a large number of sentences to be taken into account by grammatical rules, while a creativity is the native speaker ability to expand the language system in a motivated way, but it cannot be predicted. For example, is based on the word headhunter. If seen as a formation created to appoint tribal members who guard the heads of the victims, the process of word formation is productive because it is governed by synthetic rules. However, if seen as a metaphorical expression referring to the person who recruits exclusively for a large company, the word formation process is considered creative because the word's meaning is semically opaque, that if one does not know the meaning of the second headhunter sense, it is impossible to derive it from the word alone.